สวัสดีครับมาโบไฮ Hola saludo Hi สวัสดีครับ all the fans worldwide I'm admin co of KP1 Worldwide tonight is the second day of this year New Year 2022 or Chinese Tiger Year okay to all the Chinese worldwide so tonight I got so honored indeed to have a very special guest she a prodigy. Okay, she's so young. Okay, 19 years old, but she already a queen. Miss Michigan, 2021, Taylor James. She's going to be with me tonight, and we're going to share a lot of resourceful thought. And she has a long way to go ahead of her. Okay, I can tell you, you won't disappointed with this lady. Okay, let her speak for herself a little bit before we go on. Okay. Hi, how are you, Taylor?
Hello, hi. My name is Taylor James. I am Miss Michigan Earth 2021, representing the state of Michigan. I go to college in Michigan. I am studying public health and mathematical economics with the hopes to one day become the U.S. Surgeon General. That's a goal that's way in the future, but I would like to champion an agenda that has an unprecedented focus on climate justice. That is my platform, climate justice and social justice. That is what my advocacy is throughout this reign as Miss Michigan Earth. And I am super excited to compete in just a few days. I'm actually leaving tomorrow for Miss Earth USA.
Mm. So, um, you tend to be very like hardworking student. Okay, I really admire when I go to your bio. So, tell me how do you manage your time to cast your attention to pageantry somehow?
Pageantry, I make sure that when I have an advocacy or when I have a platform, it ties into what it is that I'm studying and what I want to become. So my advocacy is actually very much in line with what I'm studying and what I plan on doing in the future. Miss Earth organization and Miss Earth USA is the perfect organization for someone who is interested in the environment truly for their career and interested in environmental justice like I am. And so it just fits so well into what it is that I'm doing. I've always been super focused on school, and I've always made sure that I've done pageants that align with my goals. So it fits
Mm,
naturally.
mm. So, I mean, according to you, I just feel that you have no qualm indeed to take challenge into pageantry. So I really love your passion indeed. So once you get into pageantry, how do you feel? Because it's quite a different world from mathematics. You have to prepare yourself in terms of physicality, walk or sort of, and personality. So just elaborate more how different between both worlds. Okay, just get a lot of young girls from other field. Okay, especially a scientific field to get inspired by your story. So a lot of girls would come and join pageantry more.
I think that it has some similarities and some very stark differences. I've had to do a lot of interviews in order to get where I am academically. I've had to interview for scholarships, interview for all sorts of things. And that personality and that shine and all of that you get from pageantry does come in handy when it comes to that type of thing. I definitely credit pageants with bringing me out of my shell and being able to interview in the way that I am to get to where I have gotten in life. However, the major differences are it doesn't matter what you look like or what you're wearing, obviously, when you're doing math and you're doing school, it doesn't matter. Physicality, it wouldn't matter. Fitness, that type of thing for my school. So it is completely different. I'm completely glam when it comes to pageant week. I'll have on, the eyelashes, makeup, heels, everything. That's something that is not included at all in what I do in school. However, I do think that there is a balance there. And like I said, that personality and that shine that comes from pageantry does come in handy in professional life. And I would definitely encourage girls that are interested in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, math, medicine to get involved. So many more women in STEM fields are getting involved with pageants. And you
Mm.
can see that all over the world.
Mm, right. Okay. So there are quite a lot of pageant. Okay, I think in the U.S. and I would love to know would it take you so long until you finalize? Okay, Miss Earth is the best fit for you.
I think that I decided that it was the best fit for me, even though I do have a lot more years in pageantry that I can do. Being 19, I think most of them end around 28, the Miss pageants at least, and then there's Misses. But I felt like Miss Earth USA and Miss Earth in general was the best fit for me because of their mission, Beauties for a Cause. I truly believe that pageants are moving into the positive direction when it comes to girls really having a passion and really having a cause and something that they stand for. And with Miss Earth USA, the environment was something that definitely pulled me in. I've cared about the environment for as long as I can remember, and I've wanted to include it in my career and in my
Mm,
plans. So I feel like it is the best fit for me because of that.
mm. Right. So, all the fans, I would love to tell you a little bit. Taylor is a very gifted student. She now doing double degree in public health. It's not actually two major because she's going to end up with two degree. Okay, Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts, mathematical economics and public health, as she telling, and also she really into environmentalism since she was young, and also I would love you to expand about your interest and your advocacy on the environmentalism a little bit, so we could go on deeper.
Okay, so climate justice is social justice is my platform, and it has everything to do with environmental injustices in this world and how we can fix them with laws and with zoning regulations. So across the country, definitely in Michigan, definitely across the United States and across the world, people who live in poorer conditions are more likely to be closer to point sources of pollution. So
Mm,
that's factories, all of those areas where our waterways are polluted or our
mm,
air is polluted. Those people, poor communities, are more likely to be closer to that. And that strongly affects their health. It leads to asthma issues. It leads to increased rates of death, actually, in COVID-19, because that is a respiratory, it's a lung disease. It leads to all sorts of issues like emphysema and other issues that you would see from a lifelong smoker because they are close to factories and other pollutants. So I have been working with the Citizens Climate Lobby and a bunch of other organizations lobbying our leaders in charge to change certain regulations like zoning laws where these factories should be allowed, whether they should be allowed in communities at all, and if they are, how much they're allowed to pollute, like putting a tax on pollution,
mm,
and other things that I'm working on
mm.
across the country.
Right, right. Okay, so as far as I listening, I think you got some experience about meeting a lot of people, especially the powerful ones. Tell me then, what is the hardest thing to convince the lawmaker or legislator to ratify any environmental bill, sort of, So what, why, how, and also, uh, what is the idea that you're going to do to change their mind? Try to win that to be your support.
So, as an economics major, it has become increasingly clear that money is always the issue. It's not that these lawmakers don't want people to be healthy or they don't want people to live happy lives, but it's all money. In these regulations, they are suggesting that the polluting companies move out of neighborhoods that belong to typically poor communities of color. And that is very difficult to do because if they're in those communities, they're able to pollute more. They're obviously people have less economic power in poor communities, so they're less likely to be able to go against them. So they can pollute as much as they want, get these people as sick as they want, but with the cause of making whatever product it is that they're making. So their factories are creating more, whatever product it is that will help them make more money. So whether it's an refinery, they're obviously refining the oil for gas or for something else. So that does help the economy. So the biggest issue is money. It's always convincing um, how can we rectify putting it in a different place if it's making us money. So the
Mm,
way to convince them is definitely to bring up renewable energy. Renewable energy is something that is a lot more expansive because you can use things like wind and solar, which we already have. They don't cost money.
mm,
Um, so explaining how we can use those sources of energy to do things like refine oil at a
mm,
larger scale and make more money. So it will be a switch. We will have to change our ways of using fossil fuels and burning those things in these communities. But
mm.
eventually, it will be better economically and it'll be more efficient. So that's honestly the way to convince them to change their ways is money, using money.
Yes, it's all about money. It's true, and also you has been hands on with local people. I think, I mean ordinary people. So you said that in the area there's a lot of employee who work with the factory who actually prone to many kind of toxic environmental problem, and
Absolutely.
yes, and it's going to cause a negative effect on their health somehow. Okay, both in short term, intermediate term, and in long term. So I really wonder also, most of them are middle class, they're not rich, right?
Right.
Uh-huh. So I mean, if we going to promote like renewable energy or reusable material, I think what about the cost of the new production? Would that, I mean, so what do you think about this thing? How do you defend, okay, for someone who still stick to the same material?
I think that if you're going to stick to fossil fuels, I mean, if some countries and some states have decided that a certain level of fossil fuels will be necessary for the future, so for them, it's really just about getting it out of the communities that are affected the most, and also promoting workers' health. Like you said, a lot more education needs to be done on that topic because I think that a lot of times we catch those illnesses at their end stages. So once somebody already has asbestos poisoning or mesothelioma or lead poisoning, we catch it then. So there needs to be that's why workers issues need to be put at the forefront so that we can educate people on those problems because once they're educated, I feel like a large portion of the community and of the world will realize that moving to renewable energy is not only good economically and good for the environment, but good for the health of the workers, anybody who comes in contact with them. However, renewable energy, a huge concern, like you were saying, can be those people that have those jobs in fossil fuels. They might think that their jobs are going to be taken away, or they'll lose jobs. But the key is to transfer those jobs into renewable energy and have government programs that make
Mm.
sure that their skills are transferable when renewable energy comes into play. So I
Yeah.
think that once that education is done, then there will be no doubt that we should move to renewable energy, and it'll be better for everyone.
Mm. And would you feel discouraged when you try to push the progressive education to a lot of people who don't really understand yet? That definitely would be some resistance to change. So when you experience some against or anti, even though tacitly. So how tell me how normally do you handle them and try to change their perspective into more positive and more accepting?
The way I handle it is definitely the way that I was taught as a child, to value everybody's opinions and understand where they're coming from. And at the time, I didn't necessarily understand it because my thought is just whatever I think. Obviously, that's the better way. It can be difficult to deal with opposition. However, I've taken that into my adulthood, and it's definitely helped me because in order to see where somebody else is coming from, you can attack whatever it is their viewpoint is because you know where they're coming from. If you're just coming from a place of, okay, renewable energy is it, like that's the be all end all, and I don't care what anybody else has to say, you're not going to have as strong of an argument when somebody brings up a valid point. So a lot of times, like I was saying about being an economics major and talking about money is where you can get them. A lot of
Mm,
times it's nobody. I mean, there are obviously some bad or mean people in the world, but a lot of people want health in general to be promoted. It's
mm,
just about money. So if I can see where they're coming from as far as the economic changes that moving to renewable energy would make or would take a toll on the economy, I'm able to back up my points using economic language.
mm. Right. And also, you actually specializing, your study is specializing on public health. And as we know that a large enterprise, consume a lot of chemical component in their production, and definitely then usually emit a lot of pollution. Uh-huh. And also it's actually affect people health. Hmm. And what do you think about the price of the fee or the premium? I think the premium of insurance is tend to go up. You know, so how do you get everything under control or actually in balance, in harmony between the cost of public health, especially individual health, which is going to be covered by insurance company, and but in turn insurance company going to consider about the possibility of any public risk that's going to be incurred by individual area they're going to reside in, right? And I think it's actually point the finger to the origin which the enterprise. So according to your idea, how would you convince the large enterprise to be more accountable for, or to to be share some expense which going to lessened into the cost of their health.
So that is definitely something that we are exploring in Michigan and in the United States, is a tax on basically quantifying pollution. So not just saying you pollute, but saying how much you pollute. So how much damage are you causing? How much, like, quantifying it, so putting it in a number, how much you're polluting, and then taxing that pollution, because the only way that corporations are going to be held accountable is if their money is hurt, is if
Mm,
their whatever money that they're making, if that is limited.
mm,
That's the only way that we can hold them accountable is by taxing them based on the amount of pollution that they make.
mm,
Because it is completely unfair for the people, like you were saying with the insurance premiums, for the people to
mm,
bear the burden of that. Because in the United States, we don't have a universal healthcare system. We don't have a type of system where we can all get health care without paying like those different insurance premiums based on where we live or where we work or what it is that we do. So
mm,
if we're going to keep that system, then we need a way for these companies to actually bear the burden instead of the people. It makes no sense for
mm.
um, you to have to pay based off where you live or based off what you might be predisposed to. So there needs to be a tax based on the quantity of pollution.
Right. Again, because you study in both world, right? In realistic world, which is material world, okay, capitalism.
Material.
Mathematical economics is your major, okay, and also the other part is very compassionate field, okay, public health. Okay, so I mean, how for you mentioned about the tax. Quite many people also mentioned, people tend to be convinced more when we introducing like a rewarding program rather
Yes.
than punishing by tax. So what about your idea when you're saying about, okay, it's very fair to raise up or to hike the tax, the more you emit pollution, the higher you pay. But so, would you agree with quite many people that's like better design some rewarding program to inviting enterprise to to be more responsible for the emission they're going to spread?
Yeah, so with demand and supply, it can definitely be affected either by a tax or with an incentive. So I think that some combination of the two would work well because the goal is really just to either hurt or help the corporations. So hurt the corporations if they are polluting and help the
Mm,
corporations if they aren't, because either way, the supply of whatever pollutant they're creating will go down. It's like a whole, the in the demand and supply curve, the
mm,
supply curve will shift to the left.
mm,
And supply will go down if either one happens. So I think
mm,
that there's a good balance of both. I think that when it comes to people, so actual community members and citizens, a reward program would definitely work a lot better. But in the
mm.
case of a big corporation, they're so distant from the people that they become like a machine. And in the case of a machine, I think that a tax would
Yes.
hurt them the most. So in the case of people, we don't really, I mean, people definitely do pollute with cars and things like that, but who made the cars and who made them able to pollute was the corporations.
Mm,
So with people, I think that incentives are the way to go and not be so harsh and not do a tax on individual people. But on corporations, I still do believe that the tax would be
mm.
the most helpful.
Right. So, okay. All the fans, I would love to, give a big applause, okay, for her response. I really love her response because I'm a finance person also, and she very detailed on going into categorization, okay, because when we going to analyze any problem, we need to break down,
Yes.
important. And she probably the only one, okay, so far that I interviewed that made this point, okay. Like when you're considering to take any measure, you just can't, do one measure and cover and expect the best return, because we're different. And so I really love her answer that she perceive the society and analyzes into several clientele. Uh-huh. And she just tackle in each group of individual um, according to their need and the undertaking. And I think that's well deserved. Okay, I really love your answer indeed. Okay, and also, what about if you're going to impose tax on enterprise? I
Mhm.
think it's quite fair because enterprise large, okay, and individual, no way to go against them, okay. We wouldn't have that louder noise, louder
Right.
voice, to speak up, and they're going to listen, okay, because definitely it's true that they have their own scheme, okay, and run like a machine, okay. So what about if the price of the consuming goods possibly be hiked according to the tax, you know, be imposed on them. So, how would you um, manage about this thing? Because if the cost is high, the cost of living for ordinary people, okay, is going to be high as well,
Mhm.
and it's very hard already for them. So, how would you how would you handle if they're going to push up the price of the goods?
I think with that, there's definitely proof that the alternatives to these fossil fuels and to these polluting machines or companies are viable. There are a ton of concepts and a ton of amazing ideas. For example, with cars, we know that there are electric vehicles. They're more expensive because right now the
Mm,
fossil fuels are
mm,
the cheaper option. So if the tax was imposed on these companies that are using fossil fuels and are using pollutants and polluting ideas and machines,
mm,
then that should make the price higher for those polluting companies, and then make the price lower for companies such as Tesla and other companies that are making better alternatives to the environment. Right now, the only reason the prices are higher for the non-polluting option is because of that like demand and supply shift that we were talking about. So
mm,
in the long run, the substitute should actually even out and become a better price for consumers. But if it didn't, then that would mean that the government would need to take price adjusting measures to fix that. But I believe that in the long run, I mean, just based off of, I mean, this is the economic theory that I've learned in the 2 years that I've studied so far. But in the
show your
long run,
vision. Taylor, don't be afraid to show your vision, okay? It doesn't matter, you just for more. It's okay. I respect any person. It doesn't matter you young, you aging. I mean, people wouldn't be rated according to age, okay? It's
yeah.
just in here, okay? I respect you, okay?
Thank you. But yes, in the long run, essentially, those non-polluting companies, their prices should be adjusted. It's just that right now, fossil fuels are a lot more expensive because we're not taking those measures. The people in power are not taking those measures to cut their earnings and to tax them.
Mm. Mm. So it's exactly what you advocate, okay? Climate justice is actually social justice, okay? And what about you said in your bio, you said human rights is very closely correlated to public
Yes.
health, which is true, which is now true. So, how someone probably would really get into the point? How would you explain them a little bit more? How both things can combine or actually can intertwine?
I would explain it very, very simply, kind of like I described people living in certain areas that are more polluted, then it leads to health problems. This is something that happens across the world. So no matter what, no matter where you live, if you live in a richer area that's further away from a factory, or if you live in an area that's more poor and closer to a factory, you are experiencing some of the health issues associated with pollution. So I know that I can go into my phone every day on my weather app and it says the air quality. So it'll tell me, oh, it's harsh air quality today for sensitive groups, or it's good air quality today. So that could be in a variety of areas. We're just experiencing those issues from the particulate matter that's in these pollutants. So from the particles, they're getting into our lungs because we breathe the outside air, and it's causing issues for us, health issues for us.
Mm,
And those people that live closer to these pollutants, those particles, they are getting more particles, and that is causing their health to be even worse. So
mm,
when we're looking at how to fix this and how to change these problems, it does become a human rights issue, because the people who are more poor, or who have less access to government and in order to change it, or who have less voting rights, or whatever it may be, they are not able to vote for change in that particular area. So it does become a human rights issue when your health is affected more or less because of where you live.
mm, mm. So, that's there are quite a lot of people just couldn't imagine. Okay, if there would be some parade on the street and call out for environmental awareness, sort of. They just couldn't imagine that. What would you demand? It's some people still feel that so distant from what they're thinking, because normally when there would be some protestation like equality, sort of, okay. Black Lives Matter, sort of, okay, it's very
Exactly.
strong one, but in environmentalism is sort of very soft, but actually it sends a lot of ramifications to the society and in a very long run. So
Mhm.
how would you highlight the voice of environmentalism to the people outside our circle, to be more aware and to be more understandable, okay, why we need a call out.
I think that the reason that people feel so distant, like you said, is because the health issues, and I think that this is a flaw of the environmentalism movement, is that the health issues and the human rights issues aren't highlighted. It's so much easier to show somebody a picture of somebody being violated, or somebody being experiencing violence, direct
Mm,
violence, than it is to say, the climate is changing and the earth is warming. That's something that I've always cared about, but that's rare to always care about that and to have anxiety over that, because it doesn't necessarily have to do with people, or people don't see how it has to do with them. I
mm,
think that a flaw of the movement is not bringing health into the picture and not
mm,
appealing to humans' selfish side. When you talk about animals, I mean, I know that that's the reason I don't eat meat, is because of animals. I feel bad about, the seeing the animals go through torture, but that's not what the average person is thinking about, is about animals, or about just, I don't know, the environment changing. They don't see how it's affecting them. So I think that the key is that the environmentalist movement needs to appeal to the selfish side of people, which wants, they want to be healthy and they don't want it to affect them. So I think that if those issues were brought more to light, and
mm,
we placed a lot more emphasis on human rights as it relates to environmentalism,
mm,
in addition to animal rights and just general global warming. I think that that would help a lot. A lot of
mm,
people don't see the links between climate change and global warming and human
mm.
health. and how it affects them and how it could affect us economically in the future. I just think that the issues are clear. They just need to be brought to light more in the environmentalist movement.
Mm. So, would you think we need to go that extreme, like the sticky industry that puts some, very um, not that entertaining image of patient who were affected by smoking. So, in terms of environmental racism, um, that we're going to raise more awareness, according to you, do we need like to put a big banner or like put a an image of patient who actually got some problem according to the pollution? Put on like if we have some snack, just got some picture on the snack bag, sort of.
Mhm.
Would we need to go that far to raise the awareness?
I do think that that would resonate with people. I mean, with COVID-19, for example, the way that it's presented to us is in a way that makes people worried, which is good because that has led to global vaccinations, global um, people staying at home, shutdowns, things like that, in an effort to try and curb that issue. So that is what we should do. It sounds dramatic, but that is essentially what to do in order to get people to view it as big of a problem as it is. So that's why I talk about eventually becoming Surgeon General, because Surgeon Generals put warnings on things. Like they'll have warnings on like a smoke, like before you smoke on like a packet of cigarettes, there will be a warning. There should be warnings and banners everywhere, like if you get close enough to a factory, or if you live close enough to a factory, this is what can happen. Or
Mm.
if we don't prioritize workers safety, this is what can happen. I think that that's eventually where we need to move.
Mm, I agree. I agree. I think it's. I think if we can, take that step, the picture of environmental problem will be more visible and
Right.
will be like very audacious. So the power of convincing will be enhanced, and I think more people will be like will be joining into environmentalism movement. Okay, and also you mentioned about animal. All right, I'm an animal lover. Okay,
Me too.
are
Me
you?
too.
All right. Okay. So I do believe I treat animal, my puppy, exactly as I treat human. Okay, no less. So I do believe that animal also have rights, their own
Yes.
right. So might you explain to someone who actually wouldn't understand about animal rights, why should we consider animal having a right, and if we treat them better, we could actually conserving more our earth.
I think, like I mentioned before, the when people care about animals, it's because they are they are thinking a selfless thought. So that they're thinking that it doesn't have to do with them, but they love animals because they truly feel bad about what they go through, and they want them to be treated like they're treated. However, when you're appealing to someone who has heard, claims from certain organizations like PETA or other organizations, World Wildlife Fund, they've heard those claims and they haven't listened to them. You need to again appeal to the selfish side. And when we take care of animals, we promote biodiversity and we take care of ourselves too. Because if animals continue to go extinct, they're a part of our ecosystem that keeps this earth the way it is, keeps it as beautiful as it is, as biodiverse as it is. Every single animal, from bees to elephants, have a role in the way that our world is and the way that our world is supposed to be. So when we treat them well, we are in turn treated well. And Mother Earth is also conserved and treated well. So I think The key is to appeal to those people by explaining that when animals are healthy, we're healthy, and the whole world is healthy, and we need our world to be pollinated by bees. Like bees are definitely starting to not go extinct, but that we're starting to see declines in their populations across the world. If they don't pollinate our beautiful flowers, how are we supposed to, enjoy the world as we have before? Every single animal has a reason for being here, and they help our world be more beautiful and help our world function better. So I think that that's the key. A lot of times, if we just say that animals deserve rights, which I believe and you believe and a lot of people do believe, people just don't see what it has to do with them. But we all are connected on this earth, and that's a key to appealing to people, I think.
Mm, right. So, you're actually interested in social justice, okay? And it's definitely justice very closely related to law, okay? And in terms of animal, in some parts of the world, okay, hunting is still legal. Uh-huh. And also, even though hunting is still legal, they're still poaching the big animal like elephant to get that tusk. So to get them justice, okay, to get those animal justice, if you have power, what in the world, all right, if you can propose, what kind of idea or the bill or any proposal that would you like to solve this problem? Mhm. To get this animal more dignity, okay, a right to live.
I think it definitely depends on the country. In the United States, not only is hunting completely legal, but it's a sport here. Like it's you'll walk into people's houses and they'll have like heads of animals like displayed as like trophies. It's a sport here. So I think that that is going to be very difficult to change. I think that in a country where so many things are allowed, just so many things are allowed here, and a lot of things go, anything goes. I think that the key is to limit the sport and limit the effect that it can have on our ecosystems and on the wild, because these animals obviously deserve a lot better. I think that in countries like the United States, where hunting is a sport, limiting the hunting seasons, is something that some states have looked at, and I think is definitely a good idea. Some states don't really regulate hunting very much, um, but some are starting to see that uh, there are species that aren't even invasive. Like in some places in the United States, deer are considered an invasive species because there's so many of them. But other animals that are not invasive at all are also being hunted at a crazy rate. So I think the key would be to crowd out the market by having a shorter hunting season. So if you shorten hunting season to the point where everybody's out hunting at the same time, I think that that would affect demand for sure. But in other countries where hunting isn't a sport, you have to take a more like strict approach. Just I think worse consequences for those that hunt illegally um, in those countries, because some countries it's like completely illegal to hunt elephants for like their tusks, but people still do it, and they go to jail for a few years or so. It's not seen as serious as it is, and I think that uh, that would be a good idea, is to make certain punishments harsher.
Yep, I love your answer. Okay, I love that you brought what you're studying, like economic mechanism. Okay, to be in, to be held into like lessen the demand, like to curve and to shorten the season of hunting, so the demand has been reduced. So it's automatically okay to promote animal rights somehow, because at least they got long days to live for anyway.
Right.
Okay. Good, 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 good. I really love your answer indeed. And also, you're still young, I'm very in awe that you said you live your life with zero waste lifestyle. So, might you explain to all the fans worldwide how do you do that?
So a zero waste lifestyle is not contributing to landfills in any way. So that would just mean um, not throwing anything in the trash, whether that's promoting sustainable brands that don't use plastic packaging. Actually, my favorite smoothie brand, as I'm preparing for the pageant, I've been drinking a lot of smoothies with my workouts, comes in completely compostable packaging that I can put in the compost bin. So I'm really fortunate that my county actually has a compost program. So it's very easy for my family and I to compost all of our food scraps. I don't eat meat, but my family does, and so you can even compost meat bones. That's how advanced the composting system has gotten. So compost always first. Reducing, reusing, refusing is always first. But if you can't, compost or recycle. And it seems more difficult than it is because a lot of packaging is now recyclable or compostable. But just making certain changes, like having clothes. A lot of my clothes, actually, for the pageant, are going to be they're handmade, so no waste went into the production of them. And just making certain changes like that, making sure that nothing goes in the trash can, being very conscious of that.
Right. Okay. And also, you advocate for not only advocate for, but actually you are a practitioner of plant-based dietary. So let me know how what inspired you to try on the new trending lifestyle plant-based diet.
It was 100% these two documentaries that I saw on Netflix about 3 years ago. I saw these two documentaries, Cowspiracy, and then the other one is called What the Health. And I watched those two, and it completely changed my view and definitely made me see the links between public health and the environment. And that was probably my first introduction to the links between those two. And it's the reason why I decided to study what I do, because these diets are not only amazing for your health, they're also amazing for the environment, great for the economy, great for your pocket, because there are so many times when I'm going grocery shopping and my friends will spend a ton more than I do, and I can be fine on beans, rice, vegetables, and they're spending all this money on meat and extra things. And not only is it good for my pockets, but it's great for the environment and it's great for my health. And that was the first time that I saw how those two correlate, and so I've been eating that way ever since.
Hmm. Okay, that's good. So, might you just expand a little bit? Okay, why having plant-based diet help promote environmentalism or make the earth better?
It definitely makes the earth better because of our livestock. So, one of the main issues is that the livestock from the animals that we're consuming, so that would be pigs, cows, mostly chickens, especially cows, are absolutely terrible for the environment. They promote methane gas production in our earth. And it's not saying that cows don't deserve to live or we shouldn't, cows should be killed or anything like that. But the amount of cows that we raise with the sole purpose of eating them is devastating to our environment. In Brazil, a lot of wildfires were caused because of deforestation. People are burning down the forests in order to make space for this livestock. It's not a sustainable diet because we don't have enough space on the earth to sustainably raise cows. There are certain the people will say, "Oh, my chickens are free range," or they are, grazing. My cows graze naturally. They only graze grass, and we don't feed them like any type of genetically modified organisms or anything like that. But if we were to raise all of our beef and all of our chickens sustainably, we would run out of earth. We would run out of space to do so, because in some places, there's a state in the US, North Carolina, where the hog population is outnumbering the people because they're raising so many hogs to eat. And
Mm.
that is extremely damaging for the environment because of overgrazing and deforestation.
Mm. And also, have you also growing your your gardening? Because in Thailand, we promote plant-based diets, and also we promote sustainable living lifestyle, like we growing our veggie at our garden, okay, in the house, sort of. Have you
Yes,
ever done?
that's definitely something that I support and that I love. This basil plant that I have has grown. It keeps growing, and it keeps making new basil, and that ends up being cheaper for you in the long run. My grandmother, she also she has like a little garden at her apartment, and she's brought me tomatoes before, like these
Mm.
tomatoes that she grew for me. And then at my dorm, even in college, we have little kits that the Office of Sustainability will hand out, and we're able to grow our own basil, our own parsley, rosemary, those types of things. So definitely that is a practice that is supported, but it's something that needs to be addressed by the government too, because there are a lot of regulations
Mm.
and a lot of homeowners associations in the US where you can't grow, and it doesn't make any sense, but you can't
Mm.
have to keep your grass a certain length. You have to match your neighbors. And so some people aren't allowed to even grow as much as they would like to. And in Detroit, where I go to school, that's becoming a huge problem is regulations on local farms and urban farms, that they're not allowed to grow as much as they would like to.
Mm. So all the fans, as far as we're going, have you seen the point at every issue that we touch on? At the end, is roll. If you would like any major change, it just roll revolving around the law. Okay, justice. And definitely, I totally agree with Taylor that probably in property segment, okay, might in some area they wouldn't allow to grow up the greens, lawns in their unit. So that's why we can't promote the green living lifestyle. Okay, so that's a good point indeed that we need to consider about the justice, okay, about the legislation to promote environmentalism. It's very closely related, okay. And before we going, I would love you to just briefly touch on your activity. I think global and act local. Okay, so what it is?
Okay, so for my project, we all had to do a project, a Think Global, Act Local project, in which we decided on an issue in our communities, and we made a project that was supposed to address them. So, a huge issue in Detroit, where I go to school, is waste reduction. It's a huge problem because as more and more things get into our landfills, that is causing huge issues with health, like I was mentioning before, because as things decompose or try and decompose in landfills, methane gas is released, and that makes people very sick. So, a huge thing in Detroit is not only waste reduction, but being able to reuse things and repurpose them for a better cause or better focus. Another huge issue in Detroit, because I do love animals, are stray dogs and dogs that are not that don't have homes. So dogs in animal shelters and other shelters across Michigan. So I decided for my project to help reduce waste by turning old clothing items and old blankets, socks, other textiles into dog toys to donate to my local animal shelter. So that is something that I have decided to do with the other members of my campus community. And we were able to donate hundreds of new dog toys made from old fabrics to keep them from getting into the landfills.
I really love your project. When I reading your story, because I love dog, and I knew that my puppy really love toy, and they're toiling daily, and they're trashing a lot of dolls. So I really love your project. Okay,
Thank you.
so we can be supply a lot of doll being produced from the waste. We can like conserve the earth as well, and we like promote our loved ones. Emotionally. And also, last question from fans. Hi, Chris Willow. Okay, how are you? Sustainability affects our freedom. How can you convince people that sustainability is worth it?
So, as like I've said this entire time, as a an economics major, it's always money. It's always money to convince people that sustainability is worth it. To prove that sustainability is more effective, more long term, it'll make more sense economically, is a very big goal of mine, because I do understand that these regulations, if it seems like they're coming from nowhere and it seems like it's not of interest to people, then they're not going to want to conform to them and conform to these standards. I think one big thing is that we need to go and attack these corporations and not so much the people. It's very clear that a lot of promotions and a lot of commercials that we see on TV about being more sustainable are targeted towards the people who don't
Mm,
even produce nearly as many pollutants as these corporations do. So
mm,
I think the key is to take some of the burden off of the people and definitely put it onto the corporations, that economically they are the ones that should be affected because of the pollution, and it has nothing to do with the people. It has everything to do with these corporations. So first, going and attacking the corporations and not the people. The second thing would be to educate the population on sustainable measures and how they're better for not only our health but for our economy, and explain how these measures are actually not just helpful to the environment but helpful to us in the long run. And I think that that will make it seem a lot less unfeasible. It'll make it seem a lot less restrictive, and a lot less freedom, I guess, like lowering our freedom, because it actually does help us in the long run. But I think the key is to attack these corporations. People, there's not much that we even have to do with it. They have to do with polluting these areas. These factories, taking away a factory from a poor community that doesn't have the power to oppose it, definitely would not be restrictive on our freedom. And I think that that's something that we need to promote.
right. Oh, I can see, okay, your bright future will be lie into public service, okay? Because you got a very very strong stance, um, standing next to the public, okay? So if you going into the public sector, you're going to shine. I do believe that,
Thank
and
you.
definitely enterprise would consider you the someone to be reckoned with. Okay.
That's the goal. That's always the goal.
You will. The future,
Congratulations.
the future Surgeon General. Okay, that's your long goal. If possible, indeed, I can tell. And okay, before we going, I would love you to say hi to our fans. Okay. The first one. Might you call out Kun Nampet, Miss Nampet?
Miss Noppet.
Yes, she actually beauty queen. She is Thai beauty queen. Okay, she drop in and say hi to us. Okay, um,
Hello.
right,
Thank you for
and also
joining.
this Thai fan สวัสดีครับคุณสิรินภา and Chris Willow say Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Chris Willow.
Yes, and Kun Thanapon just report himself to our program. I'm coming. And also, Miss Noor Al Hash, okay, say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Right. And Kuntarapon say Happy New Year.
Hello. Happy New Year.
And definitely, Chris Willow, thank you for answering the question. It's just exactly what he want, I think.
It
And
was a great
also,
question. Thank you.
I would love all the fans to follow Taylor James, her pageant and environmentalism journey in Miss Earth USA, which going to announce the winner next week. And tomorrow she going to embark on her huge journey. Okay, tomorrow. Please support her, Taylor James, Miss Michigan 2021 at her IG. Okay, sign Miss Michigan Earth, and you will find a lot of resourceful information about what she doing and what she thinking, what she projecting, how she going to help the Earth. Okay, and you would be amazed that she only 19 years old, a sophomore, okay, but take double degree at the moment. And if anyone follow our program tonight, I can tell that you're going to be share the same feeling as mine. I am very impressed, very impressed. I really love her intelligence. I mean, our talk is very entertaining and very intellectually, and definitely very economically. Okay, I truly understand you indeed because I'm in that field. All right,
That's
I
awesome.
got academic degree. Okay, in finance and economy, so I fully understand you. And what you saying is sensible,
Thank you.
sensible,
That's
and
always the goal.
practical, but it needs a lot of efforts to explain to a lot of people who don't really understand. That's all. And definitely a law. Okay, we need to push more to the lawmaker to be more understandable why we need a law or any bill to be enacted. Otherwise, environmentalism wouldn't go that far. Okay,
Mhm.
so Chris Willow again said, "I'm impressed as well." Okay, to confirm. All right, he really loved your answer. Okay, so might you shout out to your fans, Taylor, to follow my program and my page. Okay, according to the alphabet landing below. Okay.
Of course, yes. KP1 Worldwide, it was definitely an awesome opportunity to be a part of the show. Everybody should definitely go and follow on the Instagram. It's Copanasa, right?
Yes.
Okay. So definitely tune in to watch KP1 Worldwide. I'm definitely excited to see what else you have in store for us. Thank you.
Right. Thank you indeed. And thank you all the fans that's coming in tonight. It's almost 200, okay, live watcher that watching you tonight. Congratulations. You got a very bright promised, okay. I supporting you, okay. I really love what you're doing. I really love uh your perspective on many things surrounding you. You're very observant, okay, very
Thank you.
observant. and you really work hard. And thank you indeed for all the fans worldwide, especially in USA and in Thailand, in Philippines, in Indonesia, and everywhere. Thank you, and see you next time. All right, please support Taylor Jim, our wonderful girl. Okay, 19 years old, and probably she going to be your Miss Earth USA next week. Okay, have a good night. Bye bye. ขอบคุณมากนะคะแฟนๆ Salamat po. Gracias.